One of the most commonly asked questions that we get at Swift Values is, what sort of valuation do you need, an online or an in-person valuation? Well, in this video, I'm going to run through exactly which situation suits each valuation best and what they actually mean. And I think before we start this video, it's worth saying that both of the online and the in-person valuations are built from the ground up for HMRC, so they're 100% HMRC compliant. Now, before we get into differences between an online valuation and an in-person valuation, you've got to remember there's actually two valuations that you need, following someone's death. The first is the obvious one, and the second is the less obvious one, and people often get the two confused. Now, the first valuation that you need is a probate valuation. You need to value the personal possessions for probate purposes, which is essentially for an inheritance tax calculation if there's IHT liable on the estate, and it also helps decide if there is any IHT liable on the estate. So your first valuation is your probate valuation to get you through the grant of probate. The second valuation is a sale valuation. So if you decide to sell any of the items, then you need a separate valuation for that. And the reason being, I'll give you a quick analogy. Imagine you were getting the house itself valued for probate purposes. You might call 3 estate agents round on a day that suits you. They'll come round, they'll value the property, they'll give you, typically each one will give you a different valuation, and then you'll average those figures out and use that for your grant submission. Now imagine you were now selling the house. Maybe you'd get a gardener in to tidy the garden. Maybe you'd decorate a bit or redo the carpets or, give things a bit of a clean and a spruce up. And the point being is that when you're selling it, you're trying to maximize your return. And you know what? If you ended up titivating the house and making sure the photographs were taken on a very nice day, you might end up adding 5 or 10% to the value of the house. And if that happens, you simply submit a revision to HMRC. So just bear that in mind. The valuations that we focus on as Swift Values are the ones to get you through probate. They're here to help you get through that probate process. Now, the online valuation is, at the moment, it's £99 plus VAT for the house contents, and it's extra for any jewellery that you have, or cars, or motorbikes and things like that. And it's suitable for about 80 to 90% of properties that we see. Now, the valuations are carried out by our experts. They're called general valuers in the trade, and they're more akin to what you would call your GP. They are able to diagnose almost everything. So you turn up to your GP and they can diagnose whether it's something that they can give you antibiotics for, or something that they need you to refer you to a consultant on. So the valuations are carried out by the same people that would come out and do the in-person valuations, except they're just doing them from the screen. Now, what HMRC says in their guidance is if their house contents or the personal possessions, or in legalese, the chattels, are worth less than £1,500, then you can self-declare these. Now, the problem is like, how do you know if the house contents is worth more than or less than £1,500? And that's exactly the point of these online valuations. So if it's less than £1,500, you've gone over and above your expectations from HMRC by seeking a professional valuation. So there you are, you're perfectly through probate. And if the house contents are worth more than £1,500, again, you've got a professional valuation ready to submit with your grant. Now, broadly speaking, it works best for ordinary homes. Most people's IHT liability now comes from the value of their property and their personal investments, their savings and their pensions and things like that. If you've got an ordinary house with ordinary things and maybe a few antiques, a few bits of antique furniture, or even a lot of antique furniture these days, it'd be absolutely fine for an online valuation. And we've had 100% acceptance rate with online valuations. So online valuations are very quick, turnaround typically within about 48 hours, sometimes even sooner. Perfectly suitable for HMRC, and are a very quick and easy way to get what you need in terms of you'll get that global figure for HMRC. And if any specific items are seen by the valuer, let's say that they see a nice antique map on the wall and say, gosh, that could be particularly expensive, they will say, we need to see more photographs of that. And this will be the course of action that they need to go down. And of course, a lot of things these days can be valued remotely as well. Now, the in-person valuations are a lot more expensive. They're £249 plus VAT, plus travel, and London and the home counties are subject to a 2-hour minimum charge. Now, This is essentially where the same valuers that are sitting behind the desk looking at the online valuations go out and visit the property. So there's a lot of expense sending that person out to do that work. Now, what are they best suited for? Well, in-person valuations, there's sort of three typical reasons when you'd want an in-person valuation. First of all, if you've got a contentious estate, if you've got siblings mistrusting each other, or fights, or disagreements about the value or division of property, then an in-person one is best. Get all the siblings around with the valuer. They can all fire their own questions and they can all fire their own accusations at the valuer and give them a really good grilling. Secondly, when there's a lot of items that need to be dispersed, particularly to charities or to beneficiaries, it might be museums or other institutions, and you really need a critical eye to get these itemized specifically so that each person knows where the dispersals are going to go, an in-person valuation is perfect for that scenario too. And then the final situation when you'd probably want to go for an in-person valuation, although it's not necessarily necessary, is when you've got a large number of collector's items and antique items. So did you know that there's a collection of Meissen porcelain or Chinese porcelain, or a big collection of like silver items, or anything of your traditional antiques and collector's items that would be fetching good money at auction rooms, but not necessarily just your general household furniture, because your average antique furniture nowadays is very suppressed in the market. Now, the trade-off with the in-person ones, they're obviously much more personal. You can talk to the valuer for 25 minutes. It's on the clock, but you can talk to them for 25 minutes about the history of a specific item, and you get that much more personal one-to-one time with them. But of course, that comes at a cost. Now, both of those situations will get you through HMRC. Both of our valuations will look near enough identical in both circumstances, and you will get the deliverable of a report to attach to your grant when you make the submission. Now, of course, when you come to sell any of the items, so let's say that you've got the grant in, that is the point where you might want to take a little bit more care and attention if you've only just done the online valuation. So, for instance, you might call in 2 or 3 local auctioneers to go around and see if they can find anything that would be buried in the drawers. But don't forget that HMRC are not asking you to open up every single drawer and scrutinize every single, cupboard, and open up every book to see if there's any stamps and things hidden inside it. Because, of course, if that does become the case after you've received the grant, you can, of course, submit the revision. And that's exactly the same case with the house sale that we mentioned earlier. HMRC expects their things to turn up after these valuations are carried out, or the property to sell for more than was expected when it actually hit the market and sold. So you need to be reassured that the online valuations are the perfect tool to get you through your grant of probate with HMRC. The in-person valuations offer that extra level of one-to-one time with the valuer to ensure that all of your questions are answered if you've got a complex estate. Now, if you've got any questions, please get in touch with us at Swift Values. We'll be more than happy to help. And if you've got any other questions, pop them in the comments and I'll be happy to help.